Controversial bill aimed at boosting school attendance could be heading to Governor Rick Snyder's desk any time now.
Yeah, yesterday the Michigan Senate overwhelmingly passed a bill that would strip welfare benefits if children regularly miss school. If that child is under 16, the whole family could lose cash benefits. If the child is 16 or older, only the money for that child would be removed from the family group.
The Department of Human Services implemented a similar policy a few years ago. Since October of 2013, they have imposed sanctions in more than 250 cases. Now, supporters argue that this is just a tool to keep kids in school. Opponents say it punishes poor families for the actions of their children.
Joining us now to talk about it is former House Majority Leader Rocky Richkowski and State Senator Coleman Young, who proposed an amendment to the bill that was defeated. Both of you, thank you so much for being with us. Rocky, I want to start with you if I can. If this is already an existing DHS policy, as we mentioned, what would the governor's signature on this bill mean? What would be different?
Sure. Well, it would codify it into actual state law instead of just being a regulation that could be enforced or not enforced by the regulatory arm. And basically, if our goal is to make sure that children and families are brought out of poverty, the best thing we could do is to teach our children and to basically improve our education. You improve education by making sure that kids go to schools. And by making this a law, it prevents the department from enforcing or not enforcing this law. It makes it a standardized act throughout the whole state.
All right, Senator Young, I hear you're getting restless over there already. You actually tried to water this thing down. What is your opposition to finding a way to get kids to go to school?
First of all, Steve and Joanne, you guys look beautiful. You look like
thank
brand
you so
new
much.
babies. I just had to say that. Secondly, let me just say, listen, I think the sponsor of this bill knows Yogi the Bear, because this bill is boo-boo. It is garbage. All this bill is here to do is to attack poor and poor people. It's not here to help people get out of poverty. There's no reason.
Well, it sounds like
for
it's trying to
this.
get their kids to go to school.
Well, yes, well, listen, I understand it, but taking money away from the poorest of the poor is not a good way to do that. And let me say this as well. Kids in my area, the city of Detroit, the average distance from their house to school is about 3.4 miles. 3.4 miles. You're going to punish kids in my district because they don't have adequate transportation when 30% of the people in my community don't have access to cars?
So you just saying to keep them home then?
No, I don't think we should keep them home, but we already have programs within DHHS for this. I don't see why we need this law, and I don't see why we need to have draconian laws in order to make sure that it's going to accomplish a purpose that's not going to even accomplish. All this is going to do is take money away from people and make it harder for the kid to go to school. So it's going to actually defeat the purpose of the legislation. I think we need to rely on the DHHS. I think we need to rely on other policy solutions to make sure that kids go to school so we have better tracking programs. But to do it this way, this is draconian, and quite frankly, I think it's disgusting.
Rocky,
this is a war on the poor, period.
Rocky, let me ask you this, because it alludes to something that the senator just said. This was a Michigan School Justice Partnership study that found that actually 4 of the top 10 reasons why kids do indeed miss school has to do with income. So how does that solve that issue with those statistics so high?
Well, number one, we want to make sure that kids attend school, and if they attend school, their chance of getting out of poverty are that much better. Again, this is what Coleman was not listening to, what Senator Young was not listening to, is that this currently is a regulation within the Department of Health and Human Services. And instead of having this acted on or not acted on and willy or nilly chosen by the individual employees that are at DHS, we would actually make this an entire law across the state. And what's more important, individuals that are on welfare have 2 primary responsibilities. Number one, getting the job training or finding a job to get out of or off of welfare. And number 2 is to take care of their families and make sure that their children are taken care of.
Rocky, one problem we have in Michigan, Rocky, is that there's really not even a clear definition of what truancy is.
That's absurd.
And this bill doesn't do that, right?
And that's very interesting, because actually one of the things that Senator Young was talking about was where students aren't taken to school because they lack transportation. But quite frankly, truancy in a lot of states, and a lot of states have this legislation actually, what truancy means is that you miss the whole day of school, not just 1 hour or show up late 15 minutes.
If it's already regulation, then why do we need the bill? This law is pointless.
Because you don't,
and
listen,
to assume that everyone who is poor is somehow not going through the job training or not taking care of their children, I think is disgusting and despicable.
Well, Coleman, I agree with you.
It so shows how disgusting.
Wait a second, Coleman, I think he said he agreed with you.
salami
Yeah,
this
I agree
legislation
with him
is.
on one part, Stephen.
All right, you ought to take that and run with it.
The part that I agree with is we don't need any more laws and more regulations. But this is a
What?
way, believe it or not, we don't need more laws. I think
My
we
head
need
is
less
spinning.
laws and less
Wow.
government interference.
Spin it was.
But in this respect, you basically take away an unelected individual at DHS enforcing a regulation or not enforcing. This way, it makes it standardized across the state, and you don't have to worry about discrimination amongst the poor in Detroit or in Livonia or Farmington Hills, Senator Young.
Why would
this
you
makes it
standardize
standardized.
garbage?
We want to mention
what
real
is the
quick before
purpose
we
of
go,
doing that?
both of you, I just want to say that the sponsor of this bill, Representative Schlaka, said that in Detroit public schools, attendance rates went up in some pilot programs back in 2012 and 2013.
In
when
other
this
words,
was used.
it might be working.
Yeah, it is working. And you saw the DHS basically enforce this 250 times last year. And when they did enforce it the 250 times, you saw people jumping and making sure that their kids were attending school.
But did childhood poverty go up in those areas too? And when those kids went to class, were they
Child
able
poverty
to
has
learn?
nothing to do
Child
with
poverty
this.
has everything to do with this. You take money away from people who are poor, guess what? They're going to be in further poverty.
But
That's just common sense.
if you continue to do the same thing, you're going to get the same
I'm
result.
not saying do the same thing over and over
Then
again.
what is
but
your
but what I'm
proposal?
saying is we should cut off our nose to spite our face.
What is your
Rocky, that was a
That's what
great
I'm
question.
saying.
I do want to ask Mr. Young, what is your proposal then?
Like I just said earlier, first of all, this is not a proposal. It's already something done in regulation.
Okay, got that.
to
So
say
how are you
this
gonna
is a
fix that
solution
now?
is false.
How are you gonna fix
but
that?
secondly, I think we need to work with DHHS to make sure that we have better tracking programs, make sure we have better systems to keep up with these kids, and make sure that we can find them, make sure that they go to school.
That's
I
a
think that's something
non-answer.
I think that's something that we could do within what we already have. I don't think we need a new law to do that. I
It
think we
sounds
need
like you're
strict
looking for a
existing
way to
laws.
find out how big the problem is, but that's still not the solution to the problem. Get kids in school.
First of all, I'm not trying to find out anything. I'm not trying to find out how big the problem is. I'm trying to work within the laws we already have to make sure that we solve the problem.
Well,
Because we don't need new laws. I'd rather have a current system that works than a new law that doesn't. That's what this is.
but
Gentlemen,
throwing
we're
money-
going to have to leave it there, unfortunately, but we do thank both of you
Thank
very
you.
much. It's an important topic, and we
Solution
appreciate
search
you
for a
guys.
problem.
Yeah,
All right, thank you both.
Thank
Thank you.